Hi everybody, today's lesson is 2-7 and 2-8. You are already familiar with some of these concepts, so this should go pretty quickly. These are our 4 objectives. Number 1, setting up a proportion is very important because if you do the wrong proportion, your answer will never be correct. So we're going to learn how to do that. Number 2, you are already familiar with this, cross products, but we shall do a little bit more. Number 3 is something brand new. And number 4, some of you may not be familiar with similarity statements. So let's go ahead. Setting up a proportion now. I'm sure when you were younger, you have seen Dr. Seuss books, and Dr. Seuss has Thing 1 and Thing 2. When you are setting a proportion, remember to keep your things in order. So Thing 1 over Thing 2 must equal Thing 1 over Thing 2. Otherwise, you will end up with the wrong proportion and then the wrong answer. So here's an example of a problem. And this is a very simple problem, but the process remains the same. If a recipe uses 2 dozen eggs with 5 cups of flour, how many dozen eggs are needed for 20 cups of flour? Some of you already know the answer to this. It's not very complicated, but let's see what happens when we are setting up our proportion. So here I've set up 2 fractions and I'm going to set it up so that my Thing 1, in this case, I choose my Thing 1 to be the eggs. So, oops, let's see if this works. So my Thing 1 is 2 dozen eggs and my Thing 2 is cups, and on the same keeping the same things in order, my eggs go on the top and my cups go on the bottom. And it so happens that you can solve this using algebra pretty simply, and here's what you would do. You would do 5x is equal to 5 times 20. Sorry, that was wrong. Let me erase that. Okay, 5 times x equals 2 times 20. And you don't want to multiply the 2 and the 20 out because it's pretty simple to cancel later on. You're going to divide both sides by 5. And so 5 and 5 cancels, and x is equal to, here these 2 numbers cancel because these are all factors. Remember, only common factors can be cancelled. So x is now equal to, let's see what I have, 8 dozen eggs. And you would write that as a sentence because this is a word problem. And so we move on to using cross products to solve proportions. So here is another question that you are, oops, let's do that, undo. Here we go. So here we have 2 ratios that are equal to each other, so you're going to cross multiply and it becomes 8 times x plus 2 equals 3 times 2x minus 6, which you distribute, and then you isolate your x and you solve for x and you write your answer in a solution set. I want you to try the next one by yourself before you look up the answer. So here it is, go try. Remember, these are 2 ratios equal to each other. So pause the video and then check. Cross multiply and distribute, and then isolate the y, and the answer is -4/3, which you write as an improper, a mixed number. Moving on, here is something new. It's called the means extremes theorem. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at 2 ratios, a proportion, which is really 2 ratios. You're going to look at it and say, well, if A is to B as C is to D, and here A and D, because they're on either ends, are known as extremes, and B and C are in the middle, they are called means. If A is to B as C is to D, then we can say that A over B is equal to C over D, and we can do cross products to find AD is equal to BC. And we say that the product of the means, which is B and C, the product of the means, B times C, is equal to the product of the extremes, which is A times D. And this is just something you want to remember should it show up on a quiz, the word means and extremes. Okay, moving on. Use similarity statements to find dimensions. If two figures are similar, that means they have the same shape, then their side lengths are in proportion. So here's an example. Here are two triangles, and these two triangles are similar. It's given that these two triangles are similar. This is your similarity symbol, and it tells you that triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF. The vertices are always matching, so A matches with D, B matches with E, and C matches with F. But never look at the picture, you need to look at your given statement to find matching vertices. So once you have the similarity statement, we know that the sides are going to be in the same proportion. So we can use the information from the similarity statement to write our proportions down. And we can say that AB over DE, which is using the first two letters of the similarity statement. So AB over DE is equal to BC over EF. And then the last one is also equal to AC over DF. Now we can use these three ratios in any combination we want to find any missing dimensions. In this particular problem, we have to find DE. So the number we have to find is DE, and so we need to check which of these measurements we have. It turns out that we have AB, and we have BC, we have EF. So I am going to use the first two proportions as my proportion to solve. So I'm going to rewrite this using numbers, and I'm just going to delete all these boxes so it becomes a little clearer. What we are going to use is we're going to use these two ratios in our proportion, and we're going to fill out the missing numbers. So we know that 10 over x is equal to 16 over 12, which we then cross multiply, and it becomes 16x equals 10 times 12, and then we solve for x, and in this case this is a word problem, so you're going to write that DE equals 7.5 units. I want you to try these few questions for homework, and we shall do more difficult word problems when you come to class tomorrow. Goodbye.